Very difficult for all startups to have a direct benefit necessarily from Expo because it's such a huge event. But I think all entrepreneurs in the region, especially in Dubai, need to acknowledge that the world is going to be focused on Dubai and Expo 2020. You're going to have an influx of visitors, potential customers, investors. There's going to be a lot of entrepreneurship events happening around Expo 2020. That will be your opportunity to shine. Showcase your product, meet customers, meet potential investors, really sell yourself with the influx of people that are coming in so that as they go away, they remember your name, they remember your brand, they might become a customer of your product. So I think there's a huge indirect benefit of what's happening with Expo 2020. I'm still extremely bullish on the UAE as an ecosystem hub for the region. It was one of the first mover advantages. You have some of the top funded regional startups all headquartered here. That provides a great blending ground. From a government perspective, entrepreneurship remains high on the agenda of what it is that they're doing, especially trying to diversify their economies. And therefore, I expect many of those challenges I mentioned from a legislative perspective will look to be addressed to try and make it much easier for entrepreneurs, in my opinion, to be able to start up, potentially fail, and still be incentivized to start again. And therefore, I continue to expect influx of funding into startups that are based out of the UAE. So I think the UAE from a startup perspective has come a long way, but it's important to remember that it's still relatively nascent. Entrepreneurship here has really only been around for about 10 years. And it's important to remember that the UAE was never really designed as a startup hub to start with. So when it comes to some of the operational challenges, there are things like ease of doing business, of setting up. Where do you set up your company? And having said that, there's many new free zone initiatives and incubator and co-working spaces that makes it a lot more affordable than it used to be to set up. The second challenge is, as you scale, you need more employees. And to get more employees, you need more visas. So that's something that you need to be aware of because your real estate is tied directly to the visa allocation. And thirdly, it's not just a UAE thing, you need to scale. Scale is the name of the game for all entrepreneurs and startups in MENA, and you need to be able to open and access new markets. How can you scale to other geographies in the GCC and the wider MENA region? So it's important to have the capital to be able to do that effectively. I don't think that there is a perfect pitch, but 3 ideas that they need to consider. Number 1 is make your story emotive. If you can lock in the investor to a story that you can tell about your product, it makes it much more relatable. Try and relate your product to the journey of the investor. The second thing is to do your homework. Investors are very varied in type. You have early stage investors, you have late stage investors, you have people from different industries and different countries, all of whom have different mandates. It's very important to understand what it is that they're looking to invest in so that you target the right investor. And the third one is practice. It's a bit like if you're a singer or if you're a sportsman. To get to be very good at what you do, practice makes perfect. So when it comes to pitching, practice, practice, practice. And each time you do it, you may learn something different. Every time you pitch to somebody different, you may get a piece of advice. And the more you practice, the more you're likely to impress when it comes to the investor that matters. An investor is a bit like a relationship. You're with them until your exit. And ultimately, the first thing is there's a difference between smart capital and any capital. And what do I mean by that? It's not just about getting cash. Being able to get an investor to give you intellectual capital transfer, know-how, knowledge, market access, contacts are much more effective than potentially some silent investors that just give you cash. The second thing is lawyer up. It's always important to have good lawyers that when you're signing that term sheet and doing that investment, that you avoid any punitive terms that may basically harm you in the future. So not that I'm saying investors tend to be malicious, but there are always terms that need to be reviewed. So always make sure that you have a lawyer check your terms. And the third is always keep them informed. When you build a relationship with them, it's always important to keep them on your side and not have them surprised. Money is not charity. So when they give you money, they're expecting a return. Where they can help you in your journey, they're more than happy to do so.